Hey everyone, hello and welcome to this live webinar on TestPrep By InsideIIM. I hope you guys are doing great. I hope your preparations are also going great. So yesterday the CAT admit cards have been released and I'm sure you all guys know your slot by now. And today is 28th October, exactly 1 month to CAT. And so that is why today I have brought two CAT toppers, Kriti and Anmol, who are going to share with you some quick tips and how you can make the best of this one month to CAT. So do share any questions which you might have in the course of the webinar. So welcome guys, please introduce yourself to the audience.
So my name is Kriti. I have done my engineering in information and communication technology. I don't have a any work ex, and which I've joined FMS. My CADs are 998.
Got it. Anmol?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Anmol and I'm a non-engineer, fresher, general. My CADs are 888 and I have done my graduation in aeronautics from Jamia in the last year.
Got it. Kriti, what's your academic background?
I'm an engineer, engineer freshman.
Okay. So now let's get to this point that since the CAT admit cards are out, so does the slot matter? And do you have like any tips for people who might have their exams in different slots?
I think the slot matters. I mean, I don't think it matters a lot, the slot. I just have one tip for people who might have their exam in the, let's say, second or third slot, that they should not be very curious as to what came in the previous slot and not bother themselves too much about it. Because I've seen people getting very nervous because they try to find out what questions were asked and what has been the pattern. And other than that, the people should start taking mocks in the slots. Like they should have defined time slots as per the slots that they have on the exam day, and take tests on that at that time only. Let's say every day or every alternate day, because that trains your mind and gets you habituated.
Got it. Anmol?
Right, so I'll agree with Kriti on that. You need to practice giving your mocks during the slot which has been allotted to you now, because I think it's the most important thing to have your brain function in a way that at a certain time of the day your brain is at full capacity. So I think I'd agree with Kriti on that one.
Got it. So and now because 1 month is left, so like can you guys share your schedule? What was it for you for the last month? So yeah, Kriti, you can start.
Because I was not working, I did have a lot of time. I was not really studying in the sense I was not studying through books or theories. I was giving a lot of tests. I've given 2, even 3 mocks in a day in the last few weeks. Other than that, I had a fixed target for the number of questions that I want to attempt for every section, which differed from section to section because I knew which section was my strong suit and which I needed to work on. So I had a fixed target of the number of questions that I wanted to do in a day, whether it was through mocks or through sectional tests. And I really just tried to get that done. I did not count the hours because what mattered more was if I am achieving my targets that I set for myself every day.
Right. Anmol?
Right, so I'd like to first state that right around this time last year was when I was panicking the most, because I took a new strategy to solve the verbal portion and it wasn't going my way. I was scoring maybe 10, 11 marks every mock in verbal. So yeah, if that is something which is happening with you guys, then I'd say that you just need to relax. It can be fixed. It still can be fixed. And so what I did was from now on, since 1 month is left, I'd say that you just focus on the strategy that you want to choose, the one that works best for you, which you've been scoring well in, and just hammer down on that strategy. Don't go around looking for new strategies or new approaches. Just finalize your approach now and cement it.
Got it. And because like just 1 month is left, so like a lot of people have this doubt that can this still improve a lot? Like they're not scoring well in mocks. So maybe you can share your experience that were you able to improve significantly in the last month?
Right. So as I mentioned before, I wasn't scoring really well in Google, and in the actual CAT, it was one of my best sections. Actually, it was my best section. So yeah, you can improve a lot. You still have a lot of time to improve, but at the same time, I'd say don't experiment too much. Just focus on what works for you, and I think with repetition, improvement is going to come anyways.
Right.
I agree with Anmol here. And I myself am an example because I was preparing for a different exam till 1 month before CAT. And I actually started when I had a month to go for CAT. So, and I would not say I started from scratch because I was in the habit of reading newspapers and books. So there was at least one section where I felt very confident. But for the other two sections, I did have to do a lot of hard work. And it happened. I mean, a month was what it took me. So I believe even now, people who have started or who believe I'm not prepared enough till now, they can do really well if they stick to whatever strategy works for them. And they're just consistent and disciplined over the 1 month that they have.
Right. I think that would be very motivating because you've said that you actually prepared for 1 month and were able to score so well. So now let's come to that. See how some revision strategies for the last month. So we can go section wise for this. So let's go with VRC. Oh, yeah.
Like mentioned, for VRC, I actually did not prepare a lot other than giving the sectional test that I used to do every day, fixed number of questions every day, because that was one of my strongest sections, and I knew it because I had been reading two newspapers continuously for about 2.5 years. So that is one section that did not bother me a lot. So my strategy was very simple. I knew how many questions I wanted to attempt. I had decided that I'm going to attempt the entire section. I'll not leave any question in that particular section. So, and that is how I practiced in the mocks as well. If I got anything, if I did not get a question correctly, what I used to sit with was, if I was confused between two options, after the mocks, when I analyzed what I got incorrectly, I used to sit with why I chose this option over the other. Now, how I probably got the gist of the comprehension wrong. So basically analyzing the section after I've done with the mocks and sticking with the strategy that I had made that far. So that was it.
Got it. Anmol?
Yeah, so I think for verbal, I'd agree. Again, I don't think there's a lot of revision to be done there. It's just a lot of practice that you need to do. When you give mocks, you do get to do a lot of speed reading within the mocks itself. I think there are 3 passages in each mock. So I think it's all about practice for the reading comprehension part. And for verbal as well, it's always about analyzing and seeing where you went wrong. Since English is not something which is very very set in rules, you can read 2 pages worth of rules and then you can solve any paper. It's more about practice and knowing the logical flow.
Right. So now let's come to DILR. Right. So this is a section which is very unpredictable for a lot of people. So how to revise or improve scores in this section?
For DILR, I believe one thing that I used to do initially, which I improved over time, was when I started the section in the mock or just the sectional test, I would right away start from the first question. And that, I think, and a lot of times I used to get stuck on the first set, and which consumed a lot of my time. So what I improved over time was getting patient, looking through all the sets, thinking them through, at least giving 5 minutes to understanding what the set demands, and then choosing which set I want to attempt. So that is one thing that I practice consistently, and it helped me a lot on the final day. I also knew that I am better at LR than I am at DI. So that used to be my focus. More than DI, I used to focus on the LR part. And in the last month, I tried to do as many sets as possible because at least I wanted to have an idea so that if a set that comes to me does not seem very unfamiliar. So I tried to look at as many sets as possible. I looked at YouTube videos. There are a lot of YouTube videos and mocks, even previous year question papers. That is what I did for DIL.
Got it. Yeah. Anmol?
Yeah, so for DLR, my thought process was that if you solve 2 sets completely, you'll get 99 percentile. If you solve 3 sets, you'll get 99.9. So I think that is a good way to look at it. The most important part in solving DLR is not about knowing which questions you need to solve, but knowing which questions you need to give up on and not waste much time on it. Because DLR is a section where I don't think anyone solves the entire section apart from maybe 10 exceptional students each year. So it's always about picking the right questions and picking your battles in DILR. So I think again that comes through practicing mocks.
Right. And like in recent years, there have been a lot of like theta questions within sets also. So I think sometimes people also like leave a few questions from a particular set, and that also works from them for them. So like maybe you can like share your strategy like for that.
Right. So I don't know what's the marking scheme this year, but up until last year, TETA questions had no negative marking. So I
Right.
always made it a point that I attempted all TETA questions, regardless of whether I knew the answer or not. So I think that strategy could help in case you're leaving a TETA question which you have no clue how to solve. Still give it an attempt. Maybe leave 2 minutes at the end to give it an honest effort.
Okay. We have an audience question. Joydeep is asking how many sets to solve in the last 30 days for DIR?
I think that number would vary from person to person. I do not think there is a fixed number that anyone needs to solve. You need to know your strengths and weaknesses. There are particular type of DI questions that LR questions that you might be very comfortable with, and something that you need to practice more. So this is a strategy that everyone will need to personalize for themselves, and it is not something that has a fixed answer.
Okay, so we are done with VRC and DLR. So let's come to QA. So you can like share your approaches, like how you did it in the last month. Kriti, you can start.
For QA, I don't believe I have the best strategy. That was one section that I was not very confident about because it needs a lot of practice to actually get very quick with calculations, and I didn't have the luxury of time. So what I did was I looked at the sections, parts that contribute to the most significant number of questions. And like my basic aim in QA was that I needed to cross the 90 percentile mark because I was not doing well in QA, even in the mocks. So like for VA, I thought that I would be attempting 100% of the questions. For QA, I was very clear that I would attempt as less questions as possible, as confidently I could, so as to minimize the negative marking. So this is what I did. The sections that I was more confident about and which had significant weightage, I gave more time to them. I practiced sectionals. I worked a lot on solving questions within time. So I always used to sit with timer in any practice that I was doing. I solved a lot of previous year QA questions because I think that a lot of for DILR pattern has significantly changed. There are unconventional type of questions that are being asked, but for QA you can still rely on what previous year question papers have asked. So I looked at previous year questions, I looked at sections. I gave a lot of time to QA, but only to certain sections that I felt that this could lead to what I was aiming at. So that was my strategy.
Got it. And can you like share some of those topics which you felt like you were able to focus more on?
I don't think I recall. I'm sorry.
Okay. Anmol, you can share your QA strategy.
Right. So I'll talk about the sections within QA that I focused the most on. So geometry was one, and then time, speed, distance. These two sections I focused on a lot because I believe that most of the questions in QA usually came from these two sections. And also geometry was something that I was good at, so I could solve those questions pretty quickly. For me personally, at the last month, I think I was pretty much done with my syllabus for QA. I was focusing more on speed. Again, it's about practice and working on your speed, working on your accuracy, which is I believe it is more important than speed. It's okay if you solve 8 questions accurately rather than solving 10 questions and you get 3 wrong. So I think it's all about accuracy at this point. If you have a certain section in mind that you believe you can do well on and it has a good weightage in CAT, I think you should definitely focus on that, but also practice other questions because you never really know what happens in each year.
So like Anmol focused on geometry, I was so unsure about geometry that I did not even read all the geometry questions. I used to skip skipped them right away when I saw them, because I could never get to answers during the mocks, and I realized that this is not working for me. So I just did not look at geometry questions even on the final day. So this is again very personal and depends on how you're doing in the mock.
Right, got it. And so a lot of people face this, that their mock scores like start stagnating or maybe even start decreasing 1 month before. So anything to overcome that slump, maybe?
Firstly, I do not believe that one should rely too much on what mock scores are telling you because if people have been preparing for a long time, it's usually a very consistent journey, and like some days are just bad, you don't perform on some days. So people should not rely a lot on what mock scores are telling them, especially if there's 1 month left to CAT. And secondly, if they think that scores are stagnating or there's a slump, they would have to analyze what exactly is going wrong. There will be a section, there will be a particular part in given section where they might not be performing, and they need to figure that out and work on that. So it requires a lot of micro analysis. If it's a time issue, if they're not, if they don't have the accuracy, what it is exactly that's not working for them. So that will require a lot of introspection, micro analyzing after they are done with the mock.
Got it. Anmol?
Right. Okay. So this actually happened to me. So I found out the problem was that right after I gave my mock, I sat down to analyze the mock. And what happened over there was, since we've just given those answers, we're still in defensive mode. We're defending our own answers. So I was maybe subconsciously, I was unable to see what's wrong with my approach and what's wrong with my answers. So how I changed it was that I gave one mock and I analyzed that mock the next day in the morning. So I think that helped me approach the same mock and the same solutions with a fresh mind. And that helped me. Also, there was a time in between where my scores were stagnating. So what I did was I changed my mock service, the coaching where I took the mocks from. And I think that helps too, because every coaching has a different level of difficulty for their mocks. So if you have a fresh approach to the mocks, I think that changes your stagnation as well. Just to put you off balance, I think that will help.
Got it. We have an audience question. It's specific to parajumbles in VRC. That so this person takes like a lot of time in reading the question and is not able to solve these properly. So any tips for like parajumbles or VA questions in general?
For parajumbles, I mean, I really did not have a strategy for parajumbles. I think it came very naturally to me, the flow. So I believe there are some tricks. There might be connecting words which tell you which sentence will come after that. You just need to form a natural flow in your head when you're doing a parajumble. There has to be a logical sense to it when you're doing it. A lot of times there are very subtle hints in the question itself which you need to figure out. For that, you need to practice beforehand. So that is how it worked for me.
Okay, got it. Anmol, do you have anything on that?
Right. So since in CAT, parajumbles are usually maybe 4-part paragraphs. So I think at max 6-part paragraphs in some cases. There was this logical flow to each paragraph that I read about during my preparation. So it talked about how each paragraph starts with an introduction, then it provides context, then it gives examples. So I think if you look for that flow in the paragraphs and maybe look for 2-3 other kinds of flow, that can really help. Also, CAT is I think the paper setters of CAT are honestly very smart. So I did try the word connecting approach. It didn't work out for me. I think I got most of my answers wrong with that word connecting approach. So yeah, I think that would be my advice, to check the logical flow of each paragraph.
Okay. So we have a question from Amatya. They're asking how many mocks should we take in this 1 month? Anything, like any suggestions on the number of mocks?
Again, because of how I have prepared for CAT, I have taken I was doing a mock on the day of the CAT itself. I had the 3rd slot and I did a mock before I went to take my exam. So this is again very personal. It varies, depends on how many mocks you have done so far, what you're comfortable with. If like Anmol sat down to analyze the mock the next day, I used to analyze it right after giving and because I was doing mock after mock after mock, I've done 3 mocks in a day on I guess 10 days in the last 30 days. And this is not something that I would advise to someone who's prepared for a very long time. So it depends on the preparation level that you are at and how comfortable, how much time you can give to mocks. So all of that, all of those factors come into play.
Got it. So now let's come any unique tips which might have helped you, which you think generally people overwork, they don't focus much on it. So any strategies that you would like to share?
So personally, I am very particular about how I like my things, my belongings and everything. So for the CAT exam, what I did was it may sound weird, but for the week leading up to the actual exam, I actually practiced giving mocks in the exact outfit that I'd wear on the exam day and using the exact type of pen that I'd probably be using. So a cheap ball pen, a 2-3 rupee ball pen. So those are the the micro factors that I took into account. Also, I'd say that try to avoid burnout. And what I personally did was I didn't give a mock. I stopped giving mocks 2 days prior to the CAT exam. So that helped me to go and give the mock with a fresh mind. And again, I was rejuvenated to again dive into the mock, which actually turned out to be the actual CAT exam that day.
Great. We have a question from Tanmay. He's asking, should we go for completing the syllabus in quants or should we focus on practicing?
If someone who's not prepared a lot till now, I don't think focusing on syllabus, finishing the syllabus is going to help a lot, because QA syllabus is huge, and it, even for the parts that you need a lot of practice to get the questions right in the exam. So I guess for now, if there are certain parts that you're comfortable with, then maybe cover some, like 1 or 2 more topics, but that's it. I don't think focusing on getting 100% of the syllabus done should be an aim right now.
Right. Anmol?
Yeah, I'd agree about that. Do not stress about the syllabus. It's an aptitude test. It's not a theory exam. So I think you just need to focus on your speed and your accuracy, and you'll find enough number of questions. If you've done the right sections within QA, you'll find the right number of questions to solve.
Got it. So now let's come to this, how to prioritize the time. So maybe in the number of various sections, how to basically focus on which sections to focus on. So any tips on that? Kriti, you can say.
So I would say it depends on which section you're most comfortable with and least comfortable with. And again, there are some people who constantly work on the section that they are most comfortable with because they believe they want to go all guns blazing in one section, which will help them boost their scores. For me, it was, I did not focus extensively on VARC. I was very confident about VARC. So I gave it lesser time as compared to other sections. I gave a lot of time to DILR because that is one section I believed I can do better. I can improve if I gave more time to it. And then I gave equal time to QA also. But that was there. The aim was not to boost scores, but survival for me. So that is how I divided my time between the 3 sections.
Got it. Okay, so one question we get from a lot of people is that should we start preparing for other exams maybe XAT or IFT, or should they focus entirely on CAT in this month? So what would you suggest them?
So I can take this one. Sorry, Kriti, if you want to.
No.
Okay, yeah. So what, I don't know if it's possible at this stage or not, but what I did was I gave my NMAT right before CAT, 2 weeks before CAT. And I think that my thought process was that it would help me. If I got good marks, I'd have that confidence that I know how to give this exam. If I had bad marks, I know that I need to prepare more and I'll focus more on the next exam. So I think giving one exam maybe 2 weeks before CAT, one which maybe does not matter to you a lot, would help. At the same time, it is a risk. It is a risk which you need to calculate because it will depend on person to person. About that, I'd say the month of December would be enough to prepare for the sections that do not coincide with CAT. So focus on CAT for now, and right after CAT, once you know how your exam went in CAT, you can focus on XAT or choose not to focus, hopefully.
Got it. Kriti, yeah.
So I had applied for CAT and XAT, two exams, and like Anmol said, I don't think the syllabus is vastly different for, like, there are a lot of common topics for CAT and XAT. I think there's decision making, and then for verbal section, the pattern of questions is slightly different in XAT. So those are the things that you need to focus on, and I believe that can be done with the time that they have after CAT. So for now, I believe CAT should be the main focus, other than other exams.
Right. So we have a question. Joydeep is asking, what should be a good attempt rate in the VRC section? So, yeah.
Attempt rate as in how many questions?
Yeah, I think that.
I think so. I had this Excel sheet where I used to keep a tab of my accuracy in every section. And by the time I was done with 10-15 mocks, I had a clear idea how I was doing, what was my accuracy. I used to change the number of questions I was attempting, at least in DILR and QA, because VRC, I was sure that I'm going to attempt all the questions. So that is what I went with throughout the preparation days. I would say that is something that someone can do. They can keep a track on the accuracy that they have on based on varying with how many questions that they are attempting. And then they can make a proper strategy and also implement it and try it before going to the actual exam. That if they're attempting, let's say 15 questions, what's the accuracy that they're getting if they're attempting 20 questions? So what is the optimum number of questions for them in the exam? I believe they'll arrive at a number very quickly. They'll find a pattern if they keep a tab on that.
Got it. Anmol.
Yeah, so I'll say aim to solve 2 out of 3 reading comprehensions. If I'm not wrong, there are 3 reading comprehensions. So aim to solve 2 out of 3 reading comprehensions. Then that was my strategy personally. 2 out of 3. Then move on to VARs, the VA section. Try to solve all questions in VA, and then if you have time left, come back to the third reading comprehension, which I'm assuming would be the one that you find the most difficult. So I think with that strategy, you will get enough time to solve the questions that you really know how to answer. I think a good attempt rate for VARC would be about 16 to 18 questions. If you're really confident about that section, you can aim to attempt maybe 20 to 24 questions.
Got it. We have a question from Aishwarya. So they're asking, so did your mock scores and final CAT score vary, or was it mostly the same? So,
my mock score started from somewhere around, I think, 90 percentile in the first week that I started preparing. Until the 4th week, I had like 96, 97, 98 percentile, somewhere along those lines. So I believe it did not vary a lot. I was sort of confident of getting the score that I finally had. So for me, it did not vary a lot.
got it. Anmol.
So I would say I would suggest that you do not look at percentiles for your mocks, because the people who are giving these mocks are the serious candidates. There are a lot of other candidates that are giving CAT as well. There are obviously not 2 lakh people giving each mock for each coaching. So those figures are a bit deflated on the day of the actual exam. If you perform at the same level, you'll get a much better percentile. So I'll say my mock score ranged from about 60 to 120. And in the actual CAT exam, my absolute score was, I think, 130. So it was about my peak. So yeah.
Got it. We have a question from Neha. She's asking that she has graduated in 2021 and has 2 years of gap and no work ex. So will she get good calls if she scores well in CAT?
So this is something very personally relatable to me, because I started preparing for civil services after I graduated in 2019. I have about 2.5 years of gap when I started appearing for interviews. And this was something I felt very underconfident about, even with like good CAT score. So I believe this is something that does not really matter if you have the score that is needed for whatever college you're targeting, because once you're done with CAT, what matters in the interviews is there are a lot of things that come into play, and the if you have a valid, genuine reason of why the gap years happened, it's something that's very trivial for the interview board. So it does not really matter. I think no one should be thinking of the gap years at this point. They should be solely focusing on the exam that is about to happen in a month. Because I have, even in my college, I have people around me who have had gap years and who are here, who are doing well. So it's not really a big issue.
Right. We have a question from Arundhati. They're asking most important topics in DILR. So, like, I know like there are no specific topics, but maybe you can suggest what areas they can focus on it.
Anmol, would you take this one?
Yeah, sure. So I think games and tournament, I've seen that in each year's CAT exam, games and tournament has at least one question. I mean, one set. After that, I'd say the four set questions. So basically, there are four different sets, and there are different numbers for that. So basically, like a Venn diagram, but for four different sets. That question is very important. So yeah, I think these two would be the most important sections according to me in DILR.
Got it. Then there's a question: how to improve speed in QA?
I don't think there's any other way to go about it other than practicing. You just need to practice very consistently. And also sometimes people, when they solve questions, they're very relaxed, so they don't keep a track of time. In the actual exam, you have very limited time for the solving the questions. So you need to. Did you say something?
No, continue.
Yeah, so even when they are doing questions not related to mocks or just practicing on their own, they need to be very aware of how much time it is taking them to solve the questions. And plus, I believe there are some ways to, like know what fractions lead to what decimal. Basically, tips to, facilitate your calculation processes. So I think that those are the two things that help me.
Got it. Anmol, you have anything to add?
I think if you're talking about speed for individual questions, there is nothing better than practice for quants. But if you're talking about the section as a whole, I think again it would be very important to know which questions you need to leave and not waste time on. So let's say if you take up 1 minute trying to solve a question that you won't be able to solve, it would be much better if you can just skim through it in 5 seconds and leave it if it's not something that you want to focus on right now. So that was my approach as well. So what I did was I went through the entire section, solved the questions that I knew. Then I went back from the first question. The ones I had left, I skimmed through those again, and that was my approach. So I think that could help you maximize your attempts in a section.
Got it. We have questions that should we solve every question in VRC, or the focus should be more on accuracy? So that.
Focus should definitely be on accuracy. If you're comfortable solving, I was comfortable solving most of the questions because I had 90% plus accuracy. So I believed I was doing well, which is why I followed that strategy through, and I did the same in the CAT exam as well. But it will really depend on how comfortable you are solving the questions and how you've been doing in the mocks. What are your strengths? Some people are more comfortable with the VA part rather than the RC part. So again, it depends on what your personal strengths are and whatever analysis you have done so far. So that is how one should go about it.
Got it. Then there's a question: what should be an ideal attempt for QA?
So last year I attempted 11 questions in QA. I think there were 20 questions in total, if I'm not wrong, maybe 18. So I attempted 11, and I think I got 10 of those right. And from that, I got 99.5 percentile in the CAT exam. So I think that would be the ideal attempt. But again, it matters on the slot as well because there is scaling in the final score sheet. So that would matter. But I think about 11, 12 would be a very good attempt.
Got it. Arundhati, we have actually created a video on score versus percentiles of last year. So you can check that out on our channel as well. So you will get an idea on what scores you'll get, what percentiles. So yeah. And Do we have any more questions? Okay, I think that is it then. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. I hope it was an insightful session for our audience as well. And I would just like to inform everyone that we have recently had a live DILR marathon session with Pranav Pansar, who is also an FMS Delhi alumnus and has scored 100% in DILR multiple times. And we will soon come up with more such sessions as well. So do subscribe to this channel. So yeah, thank you so much, Kriti and Anmol, for joining. Thanks for our audience for joining. And yeah, thank you so much. All the best.
All the best, everyone. Thank you.